So cyclones use energy from warm waters at the ocean's surface because of global warming, they are becoming stronger.
We have to wind up in a few minutes.
Then we have marine biodiversity.
Marine biodiversity is pteropods and testing me with these words. Coccolithophores. Thank you. Are at the basis of the food chain in the ocean. Therefore, if they disappear, all marine biodiversity is threatened. The warming of ocean waters also threatens marine biodiversity. I think if there's one more card, I think we are going to have to leave the feed after this next one, but obviously the game continues and we can come back to looking at how it's developing and some of the ideas, but you've given us so much information here. I think we've got a lot of...
This is the short version of the game.
Okay, so we can look at this one.
That's marine submersion.
So marine submersion is cyclones and weather disturbances which bring wind, therefore waves, and low pressure. So now a big word again, hectopascal loss means a 1 centimeter sea level rise. Therefore, cyclones can cause marine submersions or coastal flooding amplified by the sea level rise already caused by global warming. Brilliant, thank you.
Are those cards available somewhere, or are they kind of...
Really good question. So yeah, because we are now going to have to move on to the next stage of our programming for the day. It'd be great if you could just tell us a bit more about the game and how people can find out more. I know you have a website, but is it possible for people here to also access the cards anywhere? Are they online, or is there a chance for people to get copies of them anywhere?
The idea of the Canvas collage is to empower people to do it by themselves. So basically, what you can do is online on the Fresk website, and then the Fresk website, where the Fresk website, and then you can take an online training, and then you will get access to the cards and courses, so you can train other people.
Brilliant.
And then you can also do it online because once you do the training online, then you not only get access to the cards and some cheats, but also to the mural space where you can conduct the same game but online. It's basically a whiteboard table where you can put all the cards together and you can have that discussion. So we can also, in our group, we do also that online, not only like this. So we will be happy also to make our workshops online, or you can visit yourself the website with the same name of the game, Fresk.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And again, I'd just like to thank you for sharing that with us. Obviously, we are in a Zoom world, but it's I think people have got a real impression of how that can work. I think doing it in person, obviously, there's moving the cards around, that interaction, but I think you've been able to give us a real taste of the game, and I think people have been able to see how conversations can definitely be stimulated with those cards and the information. So yeah, from everyone here, we'd like to say thank you very much, and keep on educating and keep on speaking with us. We'll keep interacting, and thank you very much.
Thanks to you. I think, none of us know the easiest setup for this game, but I'm really happy that you participated somehow with this Zoom call. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Brilliant. Yeah, round of applause.
Okay, my name's Kuj Chuhan. I've been sort of running this project, and I thank you all for coming. Those of you who've come online, who are watching this on the live stream, thank you for joining us on the live stream. This event is being live streamed. It's on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter as well. I don't know how many people we've got on those, but anyway, I know that there's a few logging on to this. It's nice to see some familiar faces. So welcome, and Assalamu alaikum, namaste, sat sri akal as well. So what we're going to do is, I think that some people have been sitting here for about an hour now. I think it might be nice for you to be able to have a chance to stretch your legs for 5 minutes. Vicky, do you think, is this a good time for people to grab a bite or something? The trouble is the bite could slow things down a bit. That's the only worry. But I think we do need a short break so you can stretch your legs. Some people might want to go to the toilets. So we're going to start here again very soon. Okay, so within, say, 5 minutes, shall we say 5 minutes, we'll try and start again here. Okay, so please come back.
Can we bring our food back to our seats, can we, Cooch?
You can bring your food back to your seats, please do.
I'd love to sit here.
we've got a section where you're going to have a film premiere of some films that have been created with various community groups. These films are also going to be, we may not see all the films or the films in their entirety, but they are going to be available and screened in the library over the next few weeks and in the build up to the COP, upcoming COP climate conference. So I'll read the names of the films, and then I think Kuj is going to introduce them, and we also have representatives from the people who are involved with the films and the workshops here in the room to speak to them. So we've got films from David Bailey, who is the lead tutor. Is David here today?
I'm here, yes.
Oh, brilliant, there's David.
It's not really my work, it's other people's.
Brilliant. So, yeah, and representatives from your work, brilliant, represent. Oldham Lifelong Learning Service. Yeah, excellent. And we've got Sarah Yassine, who has been working with Fatima Women's Association. Brilliant. Oh, lovely. We also have Rania Inan. Is Rania here? No, but I think we may see some of that film from, oh yeah, there we go, of course. Sorry. Yeah, and it is here. So Rania's from Arabischer Frauenbund in Bremen. So our international connection there. And then we have a Community Prize winners film presentation and dialogue again from Bremen in Germany. And then we have Sylvia Linnenberg, who I've seen there. And Sylvia is from Hamburg Library with Vicky Varley from Oldham Library. Is Vicky here? At the back, brilliant. And I think you're going to be speaking on the potential of libraries to connect communities and climate action. Excellent.
We've got an interpreter who is Nancy. Can she just give a summary of what you've just said? So she's going to do that right the way through, mainly for Rania's benefit.
Thank you, Kuj. Yeah, so yeah, I will remember that and I will slow down and try and speak in pieces.
Yeah, maybe I'll just introduce myself briefly. I'm Nancy Chappell. Ich bin Nancy Chappell und ich kann das gern alles mindestens ein bisschen verkürzt ins Deutsche übersetzen für euch. Und zwar, jetzt geht es darum, dass wir verschiedene Videos gucken werden und die werden jeweils ein bisschen vorgestellt von Kuj. Und dann kann ich dazu auch einen Satz sagen und dann schauen wir, was wir gemeinsam angucken. Ja.
Thank you. Okay, so over to Kuj to play the first film. Thank you.
I'm doing a screen share, so hopefully everybody who's looking on Zoom will be able to see this. The first, I'm going to show 3 of the 6 German films. All of them will be available to watch on a screen in the library at a public screen for the next couple of weeks. But because we're a bit short of time, I'm just going to show the 3 films from the competition in Germany.
Wir werden uns 3 der 6 Filme aus Deutschland angucken und alle werden aber
Sorry, Nancy, I didn't give you time to translate.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, also wir werden 3 von 6 Filmen aus den deutschen Projekten angucken und alle werden aber in der Bibliothek zu sehen sein hinterher. Okay.
Let's admit more people into this, right?
Okay. Entschuldigung, Coach, kannst du bitte die Preisträgerin erlauben zu rein? Sie ist schon da.
Right, okay.
So we're letting in one more person from the German group. I see that as well as the
I'm just
Rocaire.
realising more people are joining us on the Zoom. Great, okay. I'm not sure how they're on the Zoom. Okay, here we go.
man kann sich hinsetzen, ein Kiste. Also wir versuchen am meisten die Sachen nicht im Müll zu werfen, weil das verschmutzt ja die Umwelt. Ihr müsst das hier also recyceln und ich habe sogar meine Hose recycelt, damit wir auch nichts im Müll werfen. Und bis zum nächsten Mal. Tschüss. Aber das ist alles für uns. Tschüss.
Okay, that's that's a great one. And let's have. Okay, here's another one. This is from Hiamude, who is a Syrian woman living in Bremen in Germany.
Jetzt bekommen wir ein zweites Video zu sehen von einer syrischen Frau, die ja in Deutschland lebt.
Okay, let's go for another one. Now some of the people, they weren't supposed to join on the Zoom, but they have. They're supposed to join via live streaming. But anyway, they're here now. So Malak has just turned up, who's a very young lad from Bremen. So let's watch his film.
Weil als der Klima noch schöner und die Umweltverschmutzung noch so normal war, waren wir alle fröhlich und deswegen auch die Erde so hell. Jetzt kommen wir zum Wetter. Das Wetter hat schon etwas mit dem Klima zu tun, weil der schlimme Regen und Donner und Blitz, also das schlechte Wetter, wie ihr hier seht, hat mit dieser Seite des Baumes was zu tun. Denn wenn umso schlimmer das Wetter, umso weniger Blätter kommen vom Wetter. Sobald es wieder sonnig ist und Wärme ist hier einmal, wird auch der Baum schöner und wieder voll mit Blättern und grüner.
In dem Schild in der Hand, Stopp Plastik, Handschild. Da meine ich, dass wir versuchen, weniger Plastik zu benutzen, somit auch mehrere Lebewesen leben können, weil die auch Plastik essen, ohne dass sie bemerken, dass es giftig ist und danach sterben und danach so aussehen werden. Weniger Plastik, bitte Leute. Das war's auch mit meinem Plakat. Wenn es euch gefallen hat, dann like bitte das Video. Tschüss!
Okay, now I was only going to play 3 of the films, but I've just realized that Ruke has turned up as well, so I'll just play one more of the films from Germany, if I can find it.
Good. Unfortunately, it's a little hard to hear you. Your speaking is getting very broken.
Okay, I'm just going to play one more film. Okay.
Wir gucken uns einen letzten Film an.
One more of the films from Germany.
Jetzt noch einen 4. Film aus Deutschland.
Okay, great.
Bitte auf leise stellen, wenn ihr nicht dran seid.
Okay, what we've got there were 4 films. They were obtained by Bremen in Germany. They ran a competition, and those films were entered for the competition. And the last film was the winning film in the competition.
Das waren alle Filme von einem Wettbewerb in Bremen. Und der letzte Film, den wir gesehen haben, der hat gewonnen.
Okay, in Oldham there were a couple of series of workshops. One was with the Fatima Women's Association, and those workshops were run by an amazing singer who you'll hear singing later. Her name is Sarah Yassin.
Ja, jetzt werden die Ergebnisse von einer Reihe von Workshops auch hier aus Oldham uns anschauen. Und es wird auch eine Sängerin geben. Also die eine Sache ist von einer Organisation, die Fatima heißt, und die Sängerin ist Sarah Yassin.
Right.
old technology with new technology? How does it affect our climate? As a group of Pakistani women, we have increased our knowledge. How electricity is made in Pakistan and in the UK, and how fossil fuel, namely coal, is burned in furnaces to generate electricity, creating pollution as a consequence. Glaciers, the melting due to climate change, and the consequences of how they destroy our crops, agriculture in Pakistan. We all have to think of ways of how to reduce our own activity to help future generations. Knowing all this, can we talk about our old ways? For example, how we used to draw water from the well and we used to use hand pumps with no electric motors. How our sewing machines were run by hand and were not driven by electricity. We feel that current technology is fueling pollution and creating climate change. This needs to change.
सुनते हैं आने वाले वक्तों में जंग पानी के वास्ते होगी और इंसान भेड़िया बनकर अपनी तहजीब और तमद्दुन को अपने पंजों से नोच डालेगा। सोचता हूं तो कांप जाता हूं। नींद आंखों में फिर नहीं आती। आपको नींद कैसे आती है? आप तक क्या खबर नहीं पहुंची?
Okay, we'll have Sarah and also Fozia speaking about that later on. And finally, the last film. Actually, there's a couple of films. How are we doing for time? Yes, we're okay. We did some workshops with lifelong learning, and no, actually, I'll just play the one film because we will run shorter. Anyway, with lifelong learning in Oldham, and over a period of time, the whole group of students all created very short films, and I've turned them into one compilation film.
Wir schauen uns jetzt eine Reihe von ganz kurzen Filmen an. Die sind von Workshops von einer Gruppe, die heißt Lifelong Learning. Das ist lebenlanges Lernen.
Okay, before we're going to get the panel of people who are going to talk about their respective parts of the project, but I just wanted to mention that all of those films we're going to release on social media over the next month and a half up until the big international conference in Glasgow called COP26, which is a funny name, but that's where they decide, you know, what they're going to try and do about global warming. So we're going to release them on social media, you know, two or three a week.
Da kann ich kurz zusammenfassen, dass diese Kurzfilme werden jetzt in den nächsten Wochen immer wieder herausgegeben, also im Vorlauf zu der großen Konferenz in Glasgow in den nächsten 6 Wochen.
Right. So could we have the various people who are going to speak? That's Sarah, Fawzia, David, and who else was there? Sarah, Fawzia, David?
Yeah, and anyone from Lifelong Learning or the other
David is from Lifelong Learning.
the actual participants?
It's been fascinating, but I've got to go.
Thank you very much for coming.
Wir werden die Leute sprechen lassen und dann werde ich kurz zusammenfassen, was sie sagen. Wir fangen mit David an.
Okay, I'm David Bailey. I work for Oldham Lifelong Learning, and we took part in this project. Really, I took part in this project really because I thought it would be interesting for my students who are studying English, reading, writing, and spelling, etc. It was that sort of project. Basically, I work with a group of people who are working on their reading and writing and spelling skills.
Ja, David arbeitet mit einer Gruppe von Leuten zusammen, die ja beim lebenslanges Lernen mit ihrem Englisch Lese-, Schreibe- und Buchstabierfähigkeiten arbeiten, und er fand dieses Projekt ganz passend dafür.
But through working, what happened was Cooj showed us some images, and we talked about these images of the consequences of global warming, and what I noticed from that was suddenly I wasn't the leader in this anymore. The students, they knew more about this. They knew how climate change and how the consequences of that were going to affect them.
Ganz spannend. Also David hat Bilder gezeigt, die zum Beispiel die Konsequenzen von der Erderwärmung zeigen. Und er merkte dabei, er war dann aber nicht mehr der Leiter, weil die Studenten, die Schüler das so an sich genommen haben und sie konnten das sehr gut vertreten selbst.
And so when they took these images and put them onto and put the words to them, those words were chosen themselves. And people, it's the program we used. It lasts maybe you're creating a video, maybe 30 seconds. Kuj has done very well to put all those together. But they were all very short, but they were very precise and to the point and meaningful.
Also das spannende Prozess, wenn man Bilder mit Worten zusammentut und alle Worte waren von den Gruppenteilnehmenden selbst gewählt. Das waren eine Reihe von 30 Sekunden Videos und Kuj hat die dann zusammengeschnitten, aber sehr spannend, wie schnell man auf den Punkt gekommen ist, das Wesentliche. So.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that what I realised was that the people I'm working with, they're not people who drive big cars. They don't live in big houses in the countryside. Many people use public transport. Lots of people haven't got passports, so they're not doing lots of travelling. So they're, in a way, they're already doing the sort of things that that help the environment. So really, it was quite humbling in some ways.
Also die Leute, die mit David zusammenarbeiten in dieser Gruppe, fahren nicht etwa große Autos, besitzen nicht große Häuser. Im Prinzip machen sie das jetzt schon, was wir allen anderen von uns empfehlen, also öffentlichen Nahverkehr zu nutzen und nicht zu viel mit dem Flugzeug zu reisen. Es macht einem ganz schön bescheiden zu hören, dass andere schon viel weiter sind als man selbst.
Probably the thing that is missing from the project is that we didn't have time to do it. We, as we came in today, we were shown there were some pictures on display of climate action, things that were being done to change things. So, for example, in Oldham, we've now got an eco park. There's all sorts of developments and positive things taking place. And I think our next step would be to make videos about something positive, the way things are going to get better.
Was fehlt insgesamt für das Projekt war Zeit. Wir hatten einfach nicht genug Zeit. Aber und außerdem waren das natürlich ziemlich negative Botschaften. Wir würden uns gern beim nächsten Mal auf die positiven Botschaften konzentrieren, sei es zum Beispiel die Ökopark, die jetzt gemacht wurde. Also es gibt Messages und Botschaften, die damit zusammenhängen, was man Gutes machen kann.
And I think finally, really, it's a pity you can't pan the camera around to show, for example, several people are here today. One of my learning support workers, Kaz, who's, oh, go on, Kaz. There we are. Kaz took a big part of this, and you helped a lot with it, didn't you? You were part of the project and the class.
Yeah, they are vulnerable adults, and they are struggling to cope with the languages. So we break the languages down to explain what is happening, how can they do it, and they did a great job, and I can't praise anybody higher than anything. They were excellent in what they do.
Yeah. Yes, it was a way of giving a voice. I mean, they're giving a voice to people really who are often kind of marginalised.
Da will David auch betonen, zusammen mit Kaz, der auch bei den Videos geholfen hat, dass wenn man die Sprache herunterbricht, sie wirklich vereinfacht, man damit eine Stimme verleiht an Leuten, die sonst vielleicht nicht gehört werden, und dass das wirklich sehr wertvoll war.
And finally, I need to name check the people here. They wouldn't come up and sit with me, but how do we? Is there a way of showing them, Kuj? It's a way of. So, Sarah first. So can you get Sarah? Say hello. Yes, hi. Oh, that's Sarah. And then we've got Daniel.
Daniel, put your hand up.
Yeah. And last but by no means least, Maz, hello. But yeah, it was an excellent project. We've enjoyed every minute of it. well, no, it has its moments, but it's been great. What do I do now? Any questions?
Should we have questions all together at the end?
Right,
We'll have
yeah.
all the speakers then. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Just for time, really.
Yeah.
Da haben wir die Kamera umgedreht, um wirklich zu sehen, wer alles dran beteiligt war an diesen Projekten, bei diesen Videos mit David.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, David. So I think we'll now go to Rania Inan from Arabischer Frauenbund in Bremen.
Ja, wir wechseln jetzt nach Bremen und Rania, Sie sind dran.
Hallo zusammen, es freut mich sehr, da zu sein. Es freut mich riesig, dass wir als Arabischer Frauenbund e.V. konnten Bremen und Deutschland bei dem Projekt von Oldenham teilnehmen und auch Bremen und Deutschland präsentieren. Es war für uns alle eine Ehre. Die Teilnehmerinnen haben wirklich viel Mühe gegeben, die schönsten und besten Videos oder Bilder zu malen oder zu herstellen. Bitte, Nancy.
Sure. So Rania is greeting everyone, and she's very happy to be here and happy to represent Bremen. And she says it was really an honor to work on prepare this event and prepare the videos.
Es zeigt auch diese Kooperation, wie wir alle Menschen sind und wir sind alle auch gleich. Was Klima umgeht, das ist für uns alle gleich, entweder in Deutschland, in Großbritannien, in Ägypten, wo ich ursprünglich komme, oder irgendwo. Und das bedeutet, wir müssen alle zusammen irgendwas tun, um das Klima wirklich so möglich zu schützen, damit wir auch alle in der Zukunft besser leben können.
So this was a great example of showing how to cooperate across borders and across groups. Because in fact we are all equal. We all are dealing with this problem everywhere in the world, and of course that would be Germany and Great Britain and Egypt, where Rania originally comes from, and we all together have to do something. So this is a great way to work on that.
Und die andere Sache auch, dass die Teilnehmenden haben sich riesig gefreut, weil sie konnten als Migrantinnen ein Teil von Bremen sein und noch dazu ein Teil von Deutschland und noch dazu die beiden Bremen und Deutschland zu präsentieren.
So the participants were very happy to be involved because as migrants they were able to be part of Bremen and part of Germany, show that they belong, make a contribution.
Und ich danke sehr alle Beteiligten und besonders Britta Schmedemann, weil sie hat uns dazu geführt, mitzumachen. Und vielen Dank an euch alle und bis nächstes Mal.
So a big thank you to everyone, most particularly to Britta Schmedemann for getting us involved.
Okay, so moving on to Sarah Yassine and is it Fosia? From Fatima Women's Association.
So, Kuj approached me to deliver some workshops to the women of Fatima Association, and I already knew Fosia from another project, so already there was that friendly association. So I thought, well, this is going to be easy.
Kuj hat mich angesprochen und hat mich gebeten, dort an Workshops teilzunehmen. Und da wir uns schon kannten, dachte ich, ach, das wird ganz leicht sein. Und dann?
The problem is, we're talking about climate change here as workshops. And climate change workshops are not really that easy to digest.
Das Problem ist, dass wir ja über was ganz Großes sprechen. Wir sprechen von Klimawandel. Und das ist nicht ein Thema, was leicht zu verdauen ist.
So Fozia, how did we start?
My name is Fozia and I'm from Fatima Women's Association. We provide education, training and social and leisure activities. So Kuj approached me and he emailed me about this project. So I read the information and I thought it's a little bit dry subject, but we should still take part in that. We should encourage our women to support this project. So it's taken quite a few weeks. Then I spoke to Coach and agreed with him that we'll take part in this project. So he told me that Sarah Yassin will be leading on the project. So I was so pleased to hear that Sarah will be leading on this project and she'll be delivering the workshops. I'm sure she will make it very enjoyable.
उसको translate करना पड़ेगा.
Okay.
Ja, also Fusia überlegt, wie die angefangen haben. Sie sagte, sie fand das Thema vielleicht erstmal trocken und es hat einige Wochen gedauert, aber dann die Möglichkeit mit Sarah zusammenzuarbeiten, da wusste sie schon, das wird sehr schön sein.
So when we had a first workshop, we tried to make it very, what did we do at the start? How we started the workshop?
I think it was, it's a difficult thing to do.
It was a difficult thing to do, but we managed to engage the group.
Yes.
We started off asking them the questions, the lifestyle they had when they were young, when they were in Pakistan, because all the women we engaged, they all came from Pakistan. Some came 40 years ago, some came 50 years ago. So life was very different at that time in Pakistan. The areas they were living in, they had no electricity and they don't had the gas at that time. And so we compared that the lifestyle in UK, what they're living now. So it was very easy for them to do the comparison. So we've given them the flip charts to write it down. So how the technology has changed.
Yeah, so literally it was, I suppose, they were sharing, the thoughts and the questions we just put on a whiteboard. And so basically it's kind of, the effects of burning coal and as you you can't see it on the, but it happened slowly, didn't it?
It did.
Over the
it
weeks.
Did. Yeah.
So we
I'll just sum this up a little bit. Thanks.
No problem.
Okay. So, beim ersten Workshop war es vielleicht doch ein bisschen schwierig, die Gruppe zu engagieren. Wie fängt man überhaupt an bei so einem großen Thema? Aber indem man sich angeguckt hat, wie war der Lebensstil, als die Frauen in der Gruppe jung waren. Die kommen alle aus Pakistan, manche 40, manche schon 50 Jahre her. Und das Leben war wirklich ganz anders. Sie waren ohne Strom, ohne Gas. Und man hat angefangen, dort in ihrer eigenen Kindheit zu überlegen. Fragen wurden gestellt auf Flipcharts und auf Whiteboard. Und dann fingen sie an, miteinander Ideen zu teilen.
You see, English is not their first language. It's Punjabi or Urdu. And so
we were translating it throughout the session. Sarah was delivering it in English and in Urdu as well, so they can understand it better. So, and I personally think they really contributed well.
Very well.
Very well. I did not expect at the first workshop that they will continue to attend the sessions, but they did. They did attend all the workshops.
And so basically, if I just share one, remember, English is not their language. And I didn't want to disrupt their creativity. So I said, you can write it in Urdu if you wish, so that we could at least have it. We could always, down the line, be able to translate that.
Okay, I'll just jump in and say that eine Komponente ist, dass die Muttersprache von dieser ganzen Gruppe doch nicht Englisch ist, sondern zum größten Teil Urdu oder auch Punjabi. Und deswegen war es notwendig zu übersetzen. Aber das wollten sie wirklich machen, weil damit haben die Frauen gut beigetragen. Auch wenn es langsam anfing, aber wir wollten die Kreativität nicht zurückhalten. Und indem wir den aufgefordert haben, doch bitte auch auf Urdu zu schreiben, kamen tolle Ergebnisse.
Relate, or share from one group, and it is, what is the effect of burning coal? And they said, burning coal is affecting humans' life by smoke. Burning coal is affecting the sea animals' life. Can you?
Ja, was ist die Wirkung von Brennen von Kohle? Es beeinflusst das Leben von Menschen und es beeinflusst das Leben von Tieren im Meer.
Burning coal is affecting the atmosphere and the air is dirty.
Beeinflusst die Atmosphäre, beeinträchtigt die Atmosphäre und damit ist die Luft auch schmutzig.
And so what I did, I have created a song with this one particularly, and it's called Burning Coal, which I will be sharing later.
Und Sarah hat auf Basis ganz besonders von dieser Frage- und Antwortstellung einen Song kreiert und das wird sie uns nachher auch noch vorsingen.
And the wonderful thing is that you see, it's all about knowledge and communication and sharing and not making it complicated. Bear with me 1 second, Cooch. Roll it up, okay. Yeah.
Es geht um Wissen, es geht um Kommunikation und es geht um Miteinander teilen. Und es doch nicht zu kompliziert zu machen, weil auch mit diesen einfachen Ideen kann man eine Menge lernen.
Because we feel separated from climate change. We feel like it's so far away, don't we? And so I kind of explained in simple terms about how we have clean energy, but how it actually, there's a lot of dirty energy that is created for our clean energy from the simple switching of a light.
Ja, wir haben vielleicht das Gefühl, dass der Klimawandel ganz weit weg ist, aber indem man sich vorstellt, dass sowas Sauberes wie ich mache mal einfach nur einen Schalter an, kommt eigentlich von schmutziger Energie, also diese Verbindung zwischen der Energie und den Effekten.
And they got it. It all starts from the homes.
Es fängt alles zu Hause an und sie haben es doch verstanden.
That's it, Coot.
Thank you. Brilliant. So we've got around 10 minutes left and we're going to go to the back to Hamburg Library. So Sylvia Linneberg, if you're able to speak about your involvement in the films we saw as well, please.
Hello from Hamburg. I am not alone. I am here with Nico and Andrea. And I am very happy to be in this little network. I'm very, very impressed how many different people are here. And I couldn't work with a group like Rania and Britta, but I felt that I want to stay connected. And I am very grateful and happy. Especially thank you to Kuj to not to give up, even if it was sometimes hard to find participants, hard to just get started, hard to talk about climate crisis. He never gave up. I think we are in contact now for more than a year, or even the first contact was in 2019, maybe even. Vicky wrote an email to several libraries from Germany. And I think Bremen and Hamburg were the only ones that answered. And I am really, really happy that I did. I thought, something international with climate, it's important. I have to take part. And so I'm very grateful to be here. And even it connected me to these two women because I didn't know them before. And I discovered that in Hamburg, we have this climate hub.
Yes, hello, thanks again for the invitation.
For translation?
Sorry?
Do you want to allow some German translation or?
Sorry?
Ob ich das von Silvia gleich Kuj nicht aufgegeben hat, dass er wirklich, auch wenn es schwer war, Teilnehmer zu finden, auch wenn es schwer war, den Anfang zu finden, dass man dran geblieben ist, weil es doch ein sehr wichtiges Thema ist und auch schön ist, dass in Hamburg es einen Climate Hub gibt und das wollten wir gleich.
A climate group based here in Hamburg, like the name says, and we are really international and transdisciplinary group. Myself, I'm coming from Colombia, Nico is from Italy, and we have other colleagues that are not here, but also from other countries. And we try to empower other people to become climate activists in their own circle. We do with other kind of tools like en-road simulators, and also we do climate talks in order to give them solutions, hand-on solutions, to give out, to go outside and try to make the world a better place.
Und das kann ich auch ganz kurz auf Deutsch erklären, dass da Climatab ist ja eine internationale Klimagruppe. Die zwei, die wir vor uns sehen, sind ja aus Kolumbien und Italien. Aber viele andere Länder sind auch dort vertreten und natürlich auch Deutschland. Man will Klimaaktivistinnen heranziehen. Man hat verschiedene Werkzeuge, um das zu tun. Man hält kurze Vorträge, sehr aktiv und das sehr an die Leute heranbringen.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you want to know more about us, but we are really happy to connect with not only people in Hamburg, but also we do online workshops and try to connect. And it's also nice to have met Silvia today, because to be part of this network is something that goes with our mission and vision, to connect with people and try to get more climate activists out there.
Yeah, and just to... Yeah, the connections we think are really important, particularly because, as we already saw with the climate collage and also talking to each other right now, and also from the kind of people that are participating to this conversation now, is that the climate crisis is a very complex topic that touches on many different aspects of our life and on human activities. It starts from human activities and it affects them. And this influences a lot also topics that are usually not seen as related as climate and science, such as migration and social justice or LGBTQ liberation, decolonization, and all these topics. So what we try to do with our work is also bring awareness and knowledge about all these interconnections, so that everybody who is active in any of these sectors can actually connect that work that they're already doing with the work for the climate.
Ja, nur ganz kurz wäre das, die Betonung auf Verbindungen und Netzwerk ist ganz wichtig, da die Krise doch eine hohe Komplexität hat und fängt bei Menschen angeht und landet auch bei Menschen, die Effekte. Auch sehr wichtig ist es, dass es einen Komplex an Fragestellungen gibt, die miteinander verbunden sind, sei es Migration, sei es alles, was mit verschiedenen Leuten zu tun hat, Identitätsfragen zu tun hat, LGBT-Fragen zu tun hat. Und das kann man zeigen, indem man es sich anguckt, wie das alles miteinander verbunden ist.
Okay, so because we want to stick to the time, I think we have some music coming up. We have time for maybe one or two questions. I also wanted to invite Vicky Varley from Oldham Library, if Vicky's still in the room, if Vicky wanted to say anything around the films.
Just want to say thank you so much to everyone that took part. It's been such a pleasure to see the outcomes of the project today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So yeah, any questions to any of the filmmakers, the projects, and the participants? Brilliant. Is that to anyone in particular? Okay, so the question is, have you done this before?
So I am a musician, and that was my full-time job as well as being a mum. But I think during lockdown, there was no work because I'm a live artist. And so then I kind of decided, actually, this is the time now to get into what I've been wanting to do forever, because it's part of my life anyway. And I have gone back into studying to become a social scientist and working towards climate change. And I've said this, and I'm not shy to say it openly. I will continue to do this until my last breath. So.
Sarah stellt sich vor, die Frage war, ob sie das schon früher gemacht hat und wie das war. Und sie hat ein bisschen von ihrem Werdegang erzählt. Also sie ist ja Musikerin und Mutter, aber während der Pandemie und Lockdown und zu Hause sein müssen, hat sie doch ein Studium angefangen und sie wird tief bleiben bis zu ihrem letzten Atem.
I think for me, in our classes, we've often made short videos or done recordings ourselves, but this is the first time we've ever actually done something that everybody has seen. So that was what was different this time, and that's the difference that it's made by having Cooge coming in to talk to us, I think, and the project.
Sorry, David, you're saying that everyone is seen, or?
Yeah, that it's become public. We do a lot of work in the class. What we do at Lifelong Learning, it's about trying to get the learners to take control, really. So in the classroom, we'll do things for our own benefit, for our own education, but this is the first time we've taken something outside.
Okay, also David will betonen, dass seinerseits man hat schon Kurzvideos gemacht mit der Gruppe bei seinem lebenslanges Lernen, aber jetzt ist man damit in die Öffentlichkeit gegangen. Und das wäre wirklich was Neues, eine Möglichkeit, sich auszudrucken und das nach vorne zu bringen, also öffentlich zu machen.
We just know we've never done anything like this before. This is the first time we've done this kind of project. But I'm really impressed with the video, and I will show this video to all our participants, and I'm sure they will really like it and they'll be really impressed.
Das ist wirklich das erste Mal, dass wir diese Art von Sache machen, aber ich bin mir sicher, Sie werden sehr beeindruckt sein, was wir hinbekommen haben.
And the same question to Hamburg Library.
Haben Sie sowas schon früher gemacht und wie verbindet sich das jetzt dies mit früher?
You mean workshops like this or activities like this?
Yeah, you can speak to either.
Yeah. No, I think it's missing. Indeed, it's missing a little bit, these international connections. We are very busy with our daily life here in the library. And though we have all kinds of books here on all kinds of topics, sometimes the dialogue is missing. And the dialogue here in the house, but also on an international level, I think. And we definitely should reach more people. And I think with connections like this, it's one possibility. But I learned a lot also from Bremen and from Manchester to reach out, because what I didn't manage is to get the connection, like to an organization like Arabischer Frauenbund, for example. I know that there are many women in Hamburg as too who should be interested in work like this, and yeah, it's what we have to do more.
Ja, nur jetzt ist es vielleicht lustig, dass ich Sie ins Deutsche übersetze, aber ist egal. Nur zu sagen, dass diese Workshops, diese Art von Aktivitäten, eigentlich hat man die noch nicht gemacht. Man war doch immer sehr beschäftigt mit dem Alltag in der Bibliothek. Man hat sehr viel gemacht, aber was fehlte, war ein bisschen Dialog, sei es hier in der Bibliothek oder sei es international. Und das muss schon die Richtung sein. Ja, ich weiß zum Beispiel, dass es viele Frauen in Hamburg geben muss, die ähnlich wie die Gruppe in Bremen, man könnte die auch einbinden und involvieren.
And finally, Rania, if you could also speak to the idea of this project and potentially the future of more activity like this.
Rania, ja, Sie werden dran, wenn Sie Ideen haben, Zukunft von solchen Projekten und was Sie vorschlagen oder wie Sie sehen.
Eigentlich, wir haben schon einen Vorschlag. Wir wollten gerne am Anfang 2022 ein Kinderprojekt durchführen, dass die Kinder selber die Möglichkeit haben zu zeigen, es gibt mehrere Möglichkeiten, die Sachen zu recyceln. Und dann, wenn die Kinder das einfach mitmachen, dann ziehen wir auch die ganze Familie mit. Und in unserem Verein wollten wir das nicht nur als unser einiges Verein, sondern wir hätten gerne das auch mit den deutschen Familien zu machen, damit es eine Art auch von Integrationprojekt zu sein.
Spannend. So the suggestion that comes from Rania is looking at the beginning of 2022 to make a children's project out of this, a project where we show the meaning and the importance of recycling, and we get everyone participating, we get whole families to participate. And ideally, this would be also with German families, as it would be a kind of an integration project. It would be a way of bringing migrants and Germans together with this topic, which is such an important topic.
Brilliant, thank you. So I think I saw 2 hands up, so maybe let's take those 2 questions together, because I think that's all we have time for. There was one here and one around there, so would you like to give your question? Okay, who had a hand up? I did see hands.
No, there's nobody.
No? Well, I had something, if not. Okay, brilliant, thank you.
Hi, I'm Stella from Community Arts Northwest, one of the partners on the project. This project was really about involving people who've been kind of excluded from the climate debate. And there's been a lot of criticism of the climate movement for who it excludes from the conversations. And I just wonder if anybody would like to sort of have a final word about what advice would you give to anybody who's trying to engage a broader kind of diversity of people in climate activism and having a voice.
Fantastic, that was kind of my question, I love it. Did you catch that for the translation?
Sure, let me put it into German. Bei diesem Projekt war die Möglichkeit, dass Leute, die sonst wirklich etwas marginalisiert, ausgeschlossen sind, eine Stimme verliehen bekommen haben. Und das ist eine grundsätzliche Frage, die viel Kritik gewinnt in dieser Zeit in der Klimabewegung. Wer ist ausgeschlossen? Wer hat keine Gelegenheit mitzumachen? Und wie kann man noch mehr Inclusion, noch mehr Leute dazu nehmen?
Okay, so that's open to anyone who wants to speak on that.
Would you like to answer that? Because you're interested
Myself?
in climate change.
Well, actually, I'm going to throw it back to you because I was really interested in the idea that you, Fosia, you began by saying climate change is a dry subject, and I found that I find the way that you make it less of a dry subject by connecting it to people's lives. I thought that was a really good way of approaching that. So, yeah, maybe anyone could speak to the idea of how you relate, these huge big words which we saw on the climate cards. Down to people's everyday lives and how we interact with these big structures.
I think to engage.
It's just translate.
I think to engage people, we need to find a way where people will get the message and enjoy the session as well at the same time. And we should encourage them to use less cars. They should walk more. We need to encourage them for recycling. We need to do small events to raise awareness, because I think we forget in our daily life. We don't think about the environment or climate change. So I think we should send this message out regularly to communities, through schools, through primary schools, to high schools, community centres, mosques, churches, everywhere. The message needs to go out, otherwise it'll be too late in the next few years. And I was so pleased because there is a big international event in Glasgow. And when I think about this project, I feel somewhere we have contributed as well as women, as a small community group. So I think we should send this message out regularly to communities. Like we did for the COVID.
Wir hörten, dass das wirklich interessant war. Wie Sarah gesagt hat, es war ein trockenes Thema. Und wie macht man es weniger trocken? Indem man die Verbindung zum Leben, wie wir das alles erleben, herstellt. Große Worte herunterbrechen und das auf der Alltagsebene ausdrucken. Und wichtig ist gleichzeitig die Freude des Zusammenkommens und etwas gemeinsam machen, aber auch die Botschaft verstehen. Also diese zwei Sachen miteinander. Und der Vorschlag ist, das wirklich überall zu verbreiten, Schulen, Moscheen, Kirchen, Gemeindezentren, die Gelegenheit zu nehmen, wo immer Gruppen zusammenkommen, sich mit Projekten dieser Art zu befassen.
And just to add, it doesn't matter, even though, okay, there will be not a lot of coloured people probably on very important panels. I think this, as a grassroots organisation, is extremely important, and it doesn't matter as long as we carry on doing this and we continue connecting in smaller hubs and with smaller organisations. I think we're doing our job, and we shouldn't feel that we have to put our coloured face on a huge panel. Grassroots organisations are extremely vital and important for sharing climate change.
Sarah betont auch, dass es werden vielleicht nicht so viele Leute, die aussehen wie ihr, auf der Bühne geben, die dieses Thema ansprechen. Das hat aber nichts zu sagen, weil ihr alle vom Thema gleichermaßen betroffen seid. Das heißt, von unten bei allen Leuten anfangen. Es ist nicht etwas, was von oben herab überhaupt angegangen werden kann.
I'd just like to add one thing, which is that, like David said, that this is the first time that the work has gone outside. That's the word you used.
Yeah, that's right.
It's kind of, and I think that doing things at a grassroots level is really important. But I think that using community media is an accessible way for, once people get an awareness, to then start pushing it out a little bit, and so that not only do people themselves start to feel that it is important what they're saying, because it's worth putting out on social media.
That's what it's about. I think it's on the thing about the getting people involved in climate. It's got to, I mean, for most, it's got to be local, and it's got to be achievable, really. But it's also about getting people involved in activism generally. It's about making it matter, somebody seeing their that when we share that on social media, it's really good, isn't it, to see your own work up there.
It's about having a voice, which as the event is called Voices for Action, and so the idea of having a voice. So Sarah being able to put that video together, and it's the women's words in the video, but using somebody professional like yourself to sort of mould it a bit so that it's ready to go out. And I think that's a really important process for us to be able to use.
Kurz zusammengefasst, die Betonung auf herausgehen, auf in die Öffentlichkeit gehen, nicht nur nach innen gucken, weil die Leute bekommen das Gefühl, dass sie auch gehört werden und dass sie dazu gehören. Ja, man fängt an auf einer lokalen, erreichbaren Ebene, aber Aktivismus doch breiter in die Gesellschaft zu verankern, sei es, dass man die Möglichkeit hat, über soziale Medien Sachen zu streuen, zu kommunizieren und allen das Gefühl zu geben, ich habe auch eine Stimme, die zählt.
Thank you. Rania or Sylvia?
I think we need to wind up.
Just a final few words from you, please.
Ja, ich finde, es ist ganz schön, da zu sein, und danke, Kutsch, dass du an Deutschland gedacht hast. Und ich hoffe, dass in der Zukunft gibt es noch mehr Projekte mit der Klimawandel, und auch, dass wir können mehr Leute gewinnen, das zu machen. Und noch eine Sache, wer sich teilt und wer sich nicht teilt mit diesen Themen. Ich glaube, am Ende, wir müssen zusammenkommen, weil das ist wirklich ganz wichtig für unsere ganze Welt. Wenn irgendwas schief läuft, dann schief das nicht nur in Deutschland oder irgendwo, sondern irgendwann weiß das die ganze Welt. Vielen Dank.
Ja, Rania betont English. So Rania betons the global component of it. It's very good to take part, and thank you for thinking of Germany. We need more projects. We need more people, because we have to come together, because this is really something for the whole world. So if something happens in one place, in fact, it immediately or sooner or later affects us everywhere.
Yeah, I am also happy. I just said it to be in this little network, to see that so many different people are thinking about this important subject. It's so difficult to talk about climate crisis, also with friends and families, and kill a nice family evening or evening with friends. really, I already lived that. So it's good to have places like this to see that many completely normal people from all parts of the world are talking about this, even in languages which are not their maternal languages. So yeah, again, happy to be part of this project. Thank you.
Dann Silvia sagt zum Schluss, dass sie gerne im Netzwerk drin ist, dass sie wirklich gemerkt hat und wir alle merken, wie schwer es ist, über die Klimakrise zu sprechen. Das kann sehr schnell einen Abend mit Familien und Freunden verderben, weil wenn man so ernste Themen nimmt, das macht aber nichts, dann muss man dennoch weiter. Und es ist wirklich schön, dass wir drüber sprechen, gemeinsam.
Okay, thank you very much. So, yeah, let's give everyone another round of applause, participants as well. Thank you very much. So now we'll have a reset of the room because we have another premiere. We're going to hear from the amazing Sarah Yassine with some music and song which arised out of working with Fatima's Women's Association. And we're also going to hear from Emanuela, a storytelling, where's Emanuela? There we are, yeah, storytelling. I think it's going to be amazing because I know Emanuela's work. So prepare yourselves, maybe have
a 5-10 minute break just to
refresh
yourself while we get the room set up. And
perfect.
The final panel at the end, which is going to be much more, going into climate justice.
Definitely, yeah. So 5-10 minute break now. Reset the room. Come back for the music, storytelling, and then the climate debate. Looking at all these actions, bringing it all together, will be from 3 o'clock. Thank you very much.
things that you are doing in the classroom?
No, this is just a simple thing. It's I was picked out and I had to do what I was supposed to do about the course and stuff. What happened and I still got that.
Just anything. Yeah, just a message to Do I just
Oh yes, go on. What's that story?
Thank you. I did think of that. I don't feel like it's really nice that you've got it's got the fake antique exactly, all Harry Potter
How's it going?
And right now I'm also like climate justice. So climate justice is the social aspect of climate and how we can involve people into the conversation. And really with this it's to engage Oldham's community. Sorry, just wanted to check I'm not in the camera. Ah, okay. Alright, I think there's some stickers that's in the first one. Oh, just okay.
Most people, like, we teach them
Yes, I'm sorry. This is something you're good at.
I lost all of They both broke in. I don't know how they broke in. They took the bag without the working. The work with my students and all that, plus my own work. So we do have to keep that. But now I have
You're streaming all the way.
What was that?
What do you want me to focus on?
Just as you do.
So there's more of the things, yeah, okay. I tried to, I was, yeah, I think so, because I went around all of it and got all the things. There's not, yeah, and I thought there would be more people, you know, doing the games, but there's not really. There's just really the woman that set it up. It's quite quiet, and the other people that are there don't really want to be on the camera.
In a bit then, in a bit, so we'll put that back,
You know, this part, will they be asking, will the audience be saying anything?
I'm not sure. This part's just going to be
nerves. Okay, so this is called Burning Coal, and I shared that with you. Yeah. So this is the chorus. Burning coal is affecting human life. Burning coal is affecting animal life. Burning coal is affecting the atmosphere. Oh, burning coal is affecting sea life. I am here. You are here. I the consumer, you the consumer. I the polluter, you the polluter. In the extractivist world, burning coal is affecting human life. Burning coal is affecting animal life. Burning coal is affecting the atmosphere. Burning coal is affecting sea life. My future's future, your future's future. My future's gone. Your future's gone. I'm not a sustainer. You're not a sustainer. We're not sustainers in the extractivist world. Burning coal is affecting human life. Burning coal is affecting animal life. Burning coal is affecting the atmosphere. Burning coal is affecting sea life. But I can be the change. You can be the change. I'm the social movement. You're the social movement. Out of the extractivist world to save our biosphere world. To save our biosphere. Burning coal is affecting human life. Burning coal is affecting animal life. Burning coal is affecting the atmosphere. Burning coal is affecting sea life. Burning coal. So the next song actually is, I wrote this in 2006, it's quite a long time ago. It's inspired by actually a chapter in the Quran, and it's actually one of my favorite chapters, and it's called Which of the Favors of Your Lord Will Ye Deny? And I wrote this inspired by that chapter. And here's the thing, that actually it's actually innate in us as children. We are taught not to waste. We have to help and support the poor. It's really a lot about not wasting. But other than that, just the beauty of the world, just everything about it, the vibrancy of the earth, which actually we know as we stand is being destroyed. And this was written so long ago, and I just can't believe it. And I've changed the composition actually, because it's usually with a drum. So here we are. And if I've forgotten it, I'm just going to have to compose it on the spot, aren't I? Favors of my Lord. The sun, the moon, the stars' creation, earth and sky without pillars, what elation, constellation, the galaxy and all, a fixation from woman descend, how many a nation. Which are the favors of my Lord will I deny? Oh, I sent the favors of my Lord Most High. Orchards and vines with fruits and vegetation, different colors and tastes, spices a sensation. The Po Desert, Amazon design beyond imagination. Can there be flaws in his laws? Nay, pure atoms of perfection. Which of the favors of my Lord shall I deny? I sent the favors of my Lord Most High. The earth refused, the mountains refused, but foolish man took on the trust. Ooh, the earth refused, the mountains refused, the angels refused, but humans, foolish humans, took on the trust. The mother and child, a mystic relation. Masses of birds emigrating via acute orientation. There is no better representation. Within the earth lies clear annotation. Clear annotation. Which of the favors of your Lord shall you deny? Which of the favors of my Lord will I deny? No, no, no. I sent the favors of my Lord Most High. Oh, I sent the favors of my Lord Most Thank you. That's it from me.
Beautiful. Another round of applause for Sarah. What have you got? Have you got any? I think you were saying this is one of your first performances for a while. Have you got anything coming up that people should know about? That you want
Well, actually, like we've been doing performances just literally online.
Yeah.
So this would be my fourth
Okay.
performance.
So we're going to be going to Denmark because I'm a guest
amazing.
artist. I've been going there for like 10 years. It's like my
Yeah.
second country. I love it. So in November.
Yeah.
And then Rafiki Jazz are going to be performing at Kala Sangam on the 23rd of October.
Brilliant.
And it's almost sold out. So,
Okay. So yeah, do check those out. I think you've got a website, haven't you?
Rafiki Jazz.
Brilliant. Rafiki
yeah.
Jazz, definitely.
Thank you so much for that.
No, of course.
Shy to plug in anything.
Yeah. No, we've got to support our artists, haven't we? And art is obviously the way that we can move people, change things, and action, definitely. So now I think we're going to have some storytelling. Looks like there's going to be some music as well, potentially. I think we're going to be set up. So if you want to welcome down Emanuela to the stage. Keep that applause going. Woo. So while Emanuela sets up, I think I'm right in saying that you've been working with Amani Creatives, but you've also recently come back from a visit to the DRC Congo, so some of this may be within the mix. But yeah, I think this is another preview. You're blessed to hear some fresh creations. And again, just to let people know, so after this performance, we'll maybe have another reset, and at 3 o'clock we'll be holding or just after 3 by the looks of the clock, we'll be holding a conversation around some of these issues with a panel. The other thing to note is, as you come in, people will have seen the workshop that's going on, so do interact with that. That's your chance also to have your voice on these issues with arts, with words, with images. Do you want to say anything about that because you've been leading the workshop? Or where is Rabia? Yeah. Do you want to say something about the workshop?
So you're all welcome to partake in the workshop. It's called Future Roots. So we're looking at climate hope, climate anxieties, and climate actions. So we've got a printmaking technique going on outside. You're welcome to add to that, and then anything you want to add onto climate change or what maybe relates with you and your relationship with it, and then you can add it onto the actual installation. It will be there, I believe, for 2 weeks, so you'll be able to come back and have a look at that. So yeah, please do add to that if you have some time.
Amazing, thank you. Brilliant. And another thing you can do, which is really important as well, there are evaluations out there from Cannes, so if people could also fill those in, that's really important to help us evaluate the event and to do more things and do things better as well. So please do that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. So the performance is still kind of a work in progress / preview. Actually, I think that's a good thing. That means you will come next week to watch the full performance at home. So this exact performance, we're going to showcase it at home on the 29th at 2 p.m. And basically it's just a musical storytelling, if that word does exist, that I developed around the topic of climate justice, climate change from a justice point of view. So I hope you'll enjoy. Yep. When I was growing up in the Kivu region of the Democratic Republic of Congo, it was custom there for children to spend holidays in villages where their parents came from,
and get to meet members of their extended families, connect with their homelands, and get to learn about their traditions. Every time I went to the village, as a city kid, I didn't understand many things people did around me there. For example, every time Grandma cut a leaf from a tree, she will first say a kind of prayer, asking for permission to do that, and afterwards she will dance or apply a healing balm to the tree as a sign of appreciation and to help nature heal back, she said. One practice I loved the most was the tradition of people coming together in evenings and before bedtime under a tree or around the fire to listen to adults telling stories and singing songs. Mokili makamboe, mokili makamboe. In the Kivu where I come from, singing is a communal thing and it is participative. Everyone who wants join in singing. Some people join in with singing or dance and others with percussion or improvisation. Those who join in with singing, they sing in different harmonies. And those who join in with percussion, they play different percussive instruments, including hand clapping, foot stamping. They even play empty bottles and spoons. Actually, I'll show you. What is it? Okay. So hand clapping like this, it's just 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, remember my music is communal and participative. So follow me. That's it. Yeah. Some evenings, my sibling and I will go in the kitchen where Grandma will tell her stories and sing her songs. Mokili makamboe, 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 mokili makamboe. Ngana kanisa kikobotama mobola pasie, zokande kobotama mozui yango pasie ma. Ngana kanisa kikobotama mobola pasie, zokande kobotama mozui yango pasie ma. A Congo, 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 mokili makamboe, Congo, Congo, Congo Africa mokili makamboe, 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 mokili makambo e ngana kanisa kikobotama mobola pasi e nzokande kobotama mozwi yango pasi e ma ngana kanisa kikobotama mobola pasi e nzokande kobotama mozwi yango pasi e ma a Congo Congo mokili makambo Congo 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 Africa eh. Then suddenly Grandma will stop singing and say in my mother tongue, which is Swahili, kinywa ya mzee inanuka lakini haisemi uongo. This means the mouth of an elder can stink, however it does not lie. This morning I woke up to the sound of a fox. 2 days ago, I heard the rooster singing in the middle of the night. Last month, I saw a group of birds migrating south instead of flying north. Kinywa ya mzee inanuka lakini haisemi uongo. The mouth of an elder can stink, but it never lies. Then suddenly, Grandma will stop singing and just go back to start singing again. And I'm like, so what's happening? Really, what's happening? Mokili makambo e, 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 ngana kanisa kikobotama mobola pasi e, zokande kobotama mozwi yango pasi e ma, ngana kanisa kikobotama mobola pasi e, zokande kobotama mozwi yango pasi e ma, a Congo 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 mokili makambo e, Congo 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 Africa eh. Remember, my singing is communal and participative. So if you feel like it, you can join in. All you need to learn is just 2 words. Mokili makambo. In the context of my story, these 2 words means, it's just an exclamation like, life is strange, or the world is crazy. Yeah? So quickly we learn those 2 words. So you just repeat after me. So it's just mokili, mokili, makambo, makambo. We'll put those 2 words together. Mokili makambo, mokili makambo. Okay guys, so we'll sing in call response. So my call is kind of high, your response is kind of low there, yeah? Mokili makambo e, 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 ngana kanisa kikobotama mobola mokili makambo, zokande kobotama mozwi yango pasi e, kili makambo. Ngana kanisa kikobotama mobola pas mokili makambo, zokande kobotama mozwi yango pa mokili makambo. Congo 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 mokili makambo, Congo 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 Africa eh. Okay, let's go back to those hand clapping and hand tapping now. So the hands clapping is just 1 2 3, 1 2 together, 1 2, slow it a little bit down, 1 2 3, 1 2 3, 1 2 3. So while we're doing that, we can add the foot stamping. Since we're sitting down, let's just keep clapping hands. So they are 1 2 3. Here it's 1 2, 1 2, 1 2, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Thanks very much, guys. So that's it for today. If we finish the story, probably you won't come on 29th. So if you want the end of the story, come on the 29th. Thanks very much.
Amazing. Thank you very much. So the 29th, what venue, Emanuela? Home. Okay, yeah, so yeah, make sure you get that in your diaries. We didn't get your name, sorry, as well.
Oh, my name's Chippy.
Chippy.
You know that song you showed us? Have you got a website or something we can download it, or have you got an handout?
It's not yet out. It will be out on the 29th. But you can just Google Emanuela Yogolelo, then probably you'll find some things about me.
Yeah, we've got an exclusive today, another exclusive. So yeah, one more time, Chippy and Emanuela.
I'm kind of going to take over from the chairing because the next panel, Sai is actually going to be on the panel and I'll be chairing. So we're swapping over a little bit now. The next panel we have Rabia, Adam. I'm reading out the names because I need you to get set up very quickly so we don't run over time. So it's Rabia, Adam, Emanuela, Murad, and Sai, along with myself. And if Washington is able to kind of join in somehow, I'm not sure whether they've got enough mics for the live streaming for Washington, or maybe you could stay in the audience and be a kind of respondent. We've got another, Hannah as well is a kind of respondent, so maybe we'll do it that way. But anyway, if we can have those 5 people come to the front and get yourself mic'd up. And for everybody else, we're going to show 2 films after a very short break just to give us time to set up. If you need to go to the loo or have a quick drink, do that. But so we don't run over time, please come back quickly. We've got 2 films, one by Emanuela, who you just heard singing. She filmed some footage in DR Congo just about a month ago, and using that footage, a small film has been edited. And Murad from Bangladesh, he's got some footage from Bangladesh that he's turned into a slideshow film as well. So we're going to show those films as well as have a discussion, including Adam from Climate Emergency Manchester and Sai, who's one of his many hats is Racial Justice Network. So it's I think we're in for an interesting conversation now for the last panel. So please, if you need to go and get a drink or to go to the bathroom, please go now and come back as quickly as you can. Okay, thank you. Okay, welcome back everybody. A few people have had to go because they've got kids to deal with, or this, that and the other going, which is a shame. Well, they said it was a shame because they really wanted to see this last panel and the last two films. So we're going to start with, I'll introduce the panel in a minute because I've got to run over there and start some films. There are two films we're going to show. One is by Emanuela, as I mentioned a short while ago, which she filmed just very recently in Congo. And it's going to be, it's not complete. There's some more footage which just arrived 1 week ago. That's right, there's some more footage which has just arrived. It's a complicated, anyway, there's another story how we're making this film. So there's some more footage that's just arrived. So it's still a work in progress. And also, it's probably the same for Murad as well, who's made a film, and then and there's a more recent version than the one you're about to see. So both of those will come out and will be on social media. When all these videos, incidentally, for those of you who don't know, the whole set of videos are being shown on a loop in this library for the next couple of weeks. Also in Bremen Library and in Hamburg Library. As well as in Manchester Central Library. It's been delayed there for various reasons, partly due to the Tory party conference as well. There's another long story. So it's going to open there in about 3 weeks' time and then run through until roughly the time of COP26. So as well as going on social media. So in a small way, these voices are actually getting a little bit of profile, and I think they deserve to have that little bit of profile. And I think it's new for the people who've contributed their voices to create these things, to be able to feel that their voice has got that profile. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to play these two videos and then I'll introduce the panel properly, okay? And we'll have people talking about the two videos afterwards. So bear with me just for 2 seconds. By the way, these videos are intended for social media, so the format and the length and the short length of them is with that in mind. You know, they're not like long programs or TV films or anything. Okay. Okay, and
I'd like we consciously realize the fact that Africa produces copper, cobalt, gold, diamond, coltan. However, Africa can consume these only after others have exhausted them and they have become toxic. Rape is being used in Congo to silence people. Rape is being used here so that Congolese people don't denounce the fact that the country's wealth is being looted. The environment is being destroyed in the process of getting gold, diamonds, coltan, and so on. Everybody's future is being compromised. No wonder migration. The link between migration and climate change.
So on the panel we have Emanuela Yogolelo, we have Murad Chowdhury, who's from Oldham, and you all know Cy Murray, although we've not introduced you properly, to be honest. Cy Murray, who's involved in so many things. Racial Justice Network is the kind of hat he's got on for this next panel. He's also a member of an artist collective which I've been involved in for many years called Virtual Migrants. He's also involved in Shake and an organisation called Platform, which Shake is based at the Stephen Lawrence Centre. Is it still based there?
It's based in London, but Stephen Lawrence Centre is one of the sites that we do.
One of the sites, okay. And they do a lot of climate justice work around all of those areas. And and he's also a writer and a published author as well, with some really interesting things that are coming out now, have just come out, or both. And we've got Rabia Begum, who you know from the workshop outside, who's also local from Oldham. And you can all say a little bit more about yourselves. And also we have Adam Pearce from Climate Emergency Manchester. So what I'd like to do is, first of all, ask Emanuela and Murad to talk a little bit about why they made the kind of film that they made. And bearing in mind that when we say social media, a short social media video, it has to be short because it's social media, but that also means that you distill a lot of things that may be on in your mind, or things that you're concerned about, into a short space. So they're quite condensed pieces, quite distilled, if you like. So first of all, who'd like to go first? Emanuela, perhaps you'd like to talk a little bit about what was the background to you wanting to say those things? I know that's probably a long story, but yeah.
In few words, the reason why I wanted to make that film is the same reason why I set out to explore climate justice activism through music and other art form. So basically, I noticed that in current climate talks, debates, and even the overall climate movement, it's like we're missing some narratives. Basically, we don't hear, because there are other stories, there are other opinions and other experiences. Because from what I understand and from my personal experience, climate change is a global crisis. However, it is experienced differently based on where you live, who you are, what you've got, and what you don't have. And sometimes it's like we don't realize that we think we all experience climate change the same. We all have the same opinions. There is only maybe one approach, one way, but this topic is so vast and is affecting a diversity of people, to a whole complicated composition of the world, or I don't know how to say it. So I felt like what I'd like, my contribution as well as learning, trying to make changes as well, because that's another thing. It's not enough just to denounce what they are doing, what they are not doing, but what am I doing? So one of my contribution, as well as learning more about climate change, starting to make changes, even if it's at my own level and it's just small changes, so was exactly to look for these other narratives, other experiences, other opinions, and share them with guys like you. So that's the reason why, and for example, one of these other opinions, narratives, and experiences is the link between climate change and migration. People are quick to point fingers to migrants, people who drain on their economy, people who drain on NHS, people who come here to take houses and jobs, but they don't realize that migration is linked to climate change. Climate change is linked to capitalism, to British capitalists who start off some wars are really anyway, all wars have always been man-made, but some really are just after Congo coltan, I don't know, Sierra Leone, diamonds, I don't know which African country, gold, and so on. So I'd like, yeah, to raise awareness about these other narratives, the link between climate change and migration, the link between capitalism, war, armed conflict, rape, climate change, poverty, drought, and so on, because it's like we just pick what we want to talk about or what is important, but everything is important and everybody is important. I think, in few words, those are some things that inspired me to make that video.
Thank you. People may ask questions afterwards for you to expand on. So let's Murad, maybe you could say a little bit about the background that you thought, actually, this is what I want to make, this is what I want to say. How did you arrive there?
Okay, good afternoon everyone, whoever's here, and if you're watching from online all around the world. I am glad and honored to be here, and thank Kuj to give me the opportunity to express my feeling about climate change, global warming. Just a little bit background. I moved to UK in 1989. 1988, 87, there was a big flood happened in Bangladesh. 1987, flood used to happen all the time. And my family lives in Dhaka, which is the capital city of Bangladesh. And we never experienced that kind of flood that is going to come to you in your house and everything. 88 was the time my house was flooded. So I experienced myself flood. We had to move from the house, we had to get shelter. I mean, I remember when I was in school, we used to see flood outside of Dhaka. We used to bring people to our school. We used to go and bring them to, they used to use our school as a shelter.
How old were you then, by the way?
I was 14.
Right.
So it was a fun for us because school going to be shut. So that was the main thing. We used to go and bring them. But then slowly when you realize, as people say, you won't feel the pain until it affects you. So then we realize actually the family, how they go through. Bangladesh, poor country, but they are building their economy and everything. But the climate change is affecting the rural people. And they say they're not to blame. They don't use plastics. They don't use that big, massive companies that burning fuel and everything. But the poor people, they're the one who's suffering. They're the one who's been moved from their houses. So coastal areas been affected by climate change, global warming and everything. And I just wanted to show that if we don't do anything, it's going to be affecting our next generation, my kid, your kids, or their kids. So it's going to not now, but very soon it's going to affect you. And then you're going to realize. So I think it's not just sitting around and just thinking, okay, this is what's happening. One thing Manuel said is global changing. I think it's a global crime is happening. And where's the justice? Who's doing something about it? Yeah, we can sit down, but I think sitting down, talking about it will make that change. Somebody will listen. So those global crime needs to be dealt with properly. And this is the reason I made that video. Thank you.
There's another artist on the panel who's exhibiting work here, which is Rabia. It's not a film, but it's, although we may turn that into a social media video as well, possibly, but you've been doing this little structure out there. And I know that you've got a little bit of funding to do. This is kind of a part of a project that's going to build into a project, the Climate Art Buzz thing.
Potentially, yeah.
So and I know that you've been involved in climate change activism as well, and also your local, like Murad, from a Bangladeshi family. Can you perhaps talk a little bit about that piece of work there and the direction you're going in, and particularly what got you into doing all that? What brought you into this?
So I have a quite interesting story, I suppose. So it started off with my gut health issues when I was 16, 17. So I had a really poor diet as a teenager growing up, constant junk food, having takeouts from your popular Union Street down here in Oldham. So it was awful, and that attributed to my having a very severe irritable bowel syndrome, which I'm actually now kind of undergoing to see if I've got celiac disease as well. So that really pushed me into looking into alternative dietary options like being veggie or vegan. And that was a massive kind of shock to my family, especially as many staple dishes have a lot of meat in them, aren't the best in terms of being climate friendly and with your carbon CO2 emissions in that too. So that pushed me into that direction, and once I started to look into veganism and other alternative diets, I then went on to Netflix and saw a few shows there like Cowspiracy and Forks Over Knives, and that opened me up to this whole other world out there with climate change, and not even just climate change, but I find it really interesting how it's evolved from climate change at that point where I was for myself, then into climate emergency, and now into climate justice. So going into so myself and Kuj and Emanuela work with the climate justice group with Manchester Art Gallery, and it's been really interesting there because, and so does Adam, Adam, you're also here. But yeah, so does Adam, and it's been really interesting because there's a lot of issues there that I wouldn't have necessarily perhaps known. I do know these issues myself, and it's trying to relate those into a proper paradigm with yourself who already kind of know and have those experiences. So for instance, like social justice, gender equality, other issues as well. So that's kind of how I got into it, and I realised that for myself at that point, when I was growing up in Oldham, I didn't really know much of what was going on with climate change as a young person. I heard a lot within central Manchester, a lot of youth groups, but there wasn't, perhaps it was me in terms of reaching out. I didn't know what was available. So I'm from Chadderton borderline Westwood, and then that's got a huge Bengali community there. So I wasn't really aware of what there was. So I went into Manchester and got involved with a few young groups. So we had a few projects on refugees and asylum seekers, raising social activism. And then through my activism work, I then realised that I'm really interested in trying to merge my practice as a freelance artist into climate justice. And then hence the workshop outside. So that's how that came together, and it's trying to engage with communities here in Oldham who might not even know what climate change is, because for a lot of people it is right now. COVID is the main thing. We're still in a pandemic. People are still thinking, we had so many health disparities before COVID came along, and that has all been brought to the surface now with COVID. We've seen the disparities, especially for people of colour. A lot of us have been affected so much more, and what help is being done like from local governments? What can we do? And that's when I just realised, you know, my voice is my power, and then working with yourselves here too, and just having this platform to be able to share my experiences and listen to what you guys have to say. And also I think the conversations that I have with a lot of the participants as well during the workshop influences myself and me wanting to stay on and be involved in the work that I do. So it's really that kind of participatory artwork as well that really stems for me to stay involved in this. So yeah.
Thank you, Rabia. I realise that each person is saying such rich combination of things, and you might want to ask a question straight away, but I'm going to hold off to the end. Otherwise, I'm just concerned with time, so it'd be better for time reasons for us to hear everybody than ask questions at the end. So, but please just hold what Emmanuel, what Murad, and what Rabia has said. We're going to move on to Sai and then finally Adam. Okay, so but just if you've got any questions, just try and hold on to them, because I hope you don't lose them, which is easy to do. So I'm going to ask Sai just to talk a little bit about the Racial Justice Network that you're involved in, and particularly the perspectives that Racial Justice Network is interested in and some of the work that it's doing.
Yeah. So the Racial Justice Network is a Leeds-based organisation. In terms of the climate justice work we do, we have various collectives, I should say. So the Race and Climate Justice is just one of the collectives, and there's a lot of interaction between the various collectives around migrant justice, around work against the hostile environment. All these interact, obviously. But this particular collective, it's been a real source of hope, I think, and source of community throughout these last 2 years. I think it really took off from a series of collective conversations we held within the community in Leeds, which people were invited to from all over the country. And they were on subjects such as gender justice, on education, on housing, etc., with centering race within all those conversations. So the Climate Justice Collective came out of one of these conversations, and we realised obviously this is a bigger subject than just one conversation. So throughout the lockdown, we've been mainly meeting online, and it's been various groups who've been involved in Leeds, from people involved with Extinction Rebellion, local groups, through connections with people down in London with reparatory justice, the reparations movement, and also it builds upon the work we did as Racial Justice Network in connecting to our director's heritage in Kenya. So we actually did, we travelled there, I think it was February, it feels like a decade ago, but it was just before the coronavirus hit, so we were very lucky to travel there. And we did some decolonising work together with various communities in Kenya, and very similar to Emanuela's experience of talking about how people value the nature and bless nature and really honour nature when you take from it. That was very much reorientating ourselves into some of the customs that we've forgotten from our various diasporas, and how we get caught up in capitalism, in consumerism. So that was really important work, and one of the aspects of that's taken off was myself and the director, Penina Wagari-Jones, was invited to take part in the Leeds Citizens Jury Climate panel, and we were brought on towards when the process was going on, so we had not a great input, but as part of, I think, a half-hour talk within 9 of the sessions, we were able to really bring forward the idea that we need to have international thinking. So acting locally, but the really importance of thinking globally. We were slightly disappointed, we're very disappointed to find that the 12 recommendations that came out of that jury, none of them really took on board this idea of internationalism. So from that disappointment, as I say, the collective met, and we've really been forwarding something called the 13th recommendation, which goes beyond that citizens jury to really connect with all our networks. There's Brazil, there's various parts of Africa. There's Bangladesh, there's India. There's so many people who have varying backgrounds within our collective that we really want to continue the work of connecting, as we're doing here, across the globe, and really learning from each other. And I think that really has been the key task for us within organising against climate within this country, because as we see it, it's very much seen as a white-led movement, whereas the work that people are doing and have been doing for centuries in terms of living in harmony with the earth is really the answer, and that's often forgotten and neglected.
Ooh, okay, there's so many things going on there. Really interesting. Now, I'd like to ask Adam to talk, who's not an artist, as far as I know, yeah, but Adam is involved in, is the word, kind of hardcore environmental kind of like activity in terms of your training as well as the job that you do at the moment.
Yeah.
Plus also Adam is a member of something called Climate Emergency Manchester. Possibly I'd be better off asking Adam himself to explain a little bit about what Climate Emergency Manchester has been doing to try and make real policy changes, I guess, within Manchester, to try and attempt to do that, and the difficulties that they've had in doing that. There's maybe some of the greenwashing that you've encountered by the council anyway, and I guess possibly some reflection on what you think, because it's all very structural interest that you've got, direct structural interest, structural change interest that you're interested in affecting. Whereas I think the arts is sort of reaches out to people in a kind of semi-educational kind of like reaching out to people's hearts and changing things that way. But this is much more direct interest to try and do things, which is possibly harder. I don't know. So,
we've been labelled process obsessed at times, because I guess we are quite technical with our sort of focus on things. So yeah, my background is, I'd say probably like my environmental awakening came up probably in university.
Let me just speak up a tiny bit.
Yeah, it came about in university. During my master's program, I started to get more involved in carbon footprinting and that concept. But it was in a business school, so it was very much in a capitalist mindset, which I can look back at now and think, oh, maybe not the best way of looking at things. But it took me a long time to sort of awaken to the sort of wider impacts of climate change and how it affects other people, and how maybe businesses aren't always the best people to be the ones to solve the problems. So I have a professional background, and I still work in a sort of environmental area. I'm looking currently now at plastics rather than sort of climate change as a whole, but I've got very much a global awareness of climate change, how it will affect places like Bangladesh, how it exploits Congo, how it exploits other sort of developing countries across the world, and how it essentially exports its waste back again to similar places to deal with it as well. So I'm trying to sort of intervene and stop that in my own job now, but outside of that, I'm part of this group, part of the core group of Climate Emergency Manchester. So it was started off by a couple of colleagues of mine, Mark and Callum, coming together and wanting to do activism, but not necessarily wanting to put their bodies on the line and get arrested and go down that route that was going on at the moment with sort of XR and that sort of way. Because I think for a lot of people, they aren't necessarily in a place or position to put that amount of themselves and the sort of consequences associated with it on the line, because of whatever reasons, practical reasons, and so they started up this group. They pressured the council to try and get a climate emergency declaration through Manchester City Council, and eventually they did, and they got that through, and there was a unanimous vote to approve that. And I sort of came on board just before lockdown actually, and I've been pretty much like a remote member of this group, and we have been petitioning for a specific scrutiny committee, and we got that as well. So we try to use the structures, the democratic structures that are in place, to think local or act locally, but think globally.
Can you just explain that a little bit? Because I'm not sure whether people will get that. You know, when you say you've managed to get a specific scrutiny committee going, I'm not sure whether anybody here understands what that means or how potentially important it could be.
Yeah, so the way local democracy works is you have elected councillors. So every, I think 3 out of 4 years, you have local elections that aren't necessarily the best participated or engaging, but they elect your local councillors, and then there's a leader. So Oldham Council, mainly Labour. There's been a lot of controversy recently with how things have changed in Oldham. So you have those councillors and you have those elections. They then have these different committees, and depending on the style of governance, you generally have mainly like what's known as a strong leader model. So you have a leader, and then you have these different committees, and you have an executive, which is a little bit like a prime minister and their cabinet. But they have that at a local level in a borough. And then they have these scrutiny committees that are supposed to scrutinise what the council are doing. And they have to sort of pose questions, difficult questions, and it's supposed to be a bit like a watchdog of what the council do and how they're actually acting on things. There's been something that's been, we focus specifically at Manchester City Council, but we're quite happy to talk to anyone at any other borough who's trying to do something similar. And we've been specifically looking at what are these council scrutiny committees doing, and how are they looking at climate change? How are they integrating it into their policies, and challenging them and calling them out, and trying to sort of, understand where they're trying to pull the wool over our eyes to say they are doing things, but actually it's just a business as usual model of getting money in, getting development in, and paying lip service to residents and paying lip service to the concerns of many people.
Right. So there wasn't a climate change
so
it didn't exist before, so they weren't really scrutinising that.
They were scrutinising it, but they were scrutinising it at pretty much a surface level, and we were petitioning for a dedicated scrutiny committee to look at environment and climate change rather than something. So it gave it more time and space to be debated, because it's such a difficult issue. You can't necessarily give it an hour over, once a year, which is pretty much what they were doing. They weren't really paying much things. So we have an hour a month where they have to talk about environment and scrutiny committee, and we're trying to integrate it and get them to integrate it into their other scrutiny committees as well, because you can't just put it in one spot. It covers everything. Climate is affected, but it affects everything. It affects our health, it affects work, it affects skills, it affects housing. All these things have to be integrated, and that's what we're trying to push for, within the sort of the weird structures of power that come in these local democracies that generally aren't known to most of us as residents, and trying to pry and trying to shine a light into those areas.
Have you got any feelings on what you've heard today? We've had kind of local people from lifelong learning, people are just tuning into the idea of climate change, starting to articulate a few feelings. We've got things that, like, Murada said. I mean, he's probably not the only person who's grown up with experiences like that in Oldham. Similarly with Rabia, and similarly with Emanuela. There's a whole range of things. How we network things like that together, and in general how communities in Oldham may be able to begin to generate change.
Yeah, I think we've like in Climate Emergency Manchester, all our sort of materials are free to use. So like if you want to know more and want to learn more, we've got resources for students that we've created. Two of my colleagues, Marion and Pooja, created a student climate guide. So that's something that students can take and look at how they can actually integrate that, or share that with their fellow classmates, friends, whoever, school. Get this type of thing integrated into the curriculum a bit more. We've tried to create guides to sort of understand how groups can actually sustain themselves, both from an emotional and morale perspective, because a lot of the time climate activism burns people out very quickly. How do you organise something so that you can do things and sustain yourself over a long period of time, when maybe the first few people have left, and you don't just collapse, and you don't just sort of give power, it's power again. You're trying to continue and sustain this thing, because you have to continue to pressurise, otherwise it will fall back. So I think we're trying to do these things, and we're not perfect, and we're not necessarily doing it well. We're trying our best, and we're trying to learn, and we're trying to put as much out there. But I think learning with others, you know, creating small groups of people that can come together, discuss problems, try to think about solutions, or think about how you can tackle these issues, functioning as a group, discussing your emotions, I think are big parts of what you have to do, because I think the arts is very good about expressing your emotions, but maybe less so when it comes to trying to organise something maybe a bit more structured when it comes to what we need to do and keeping people to task. And we tackle it from maybe a little bit more of a sort of second job in a sense. It's not a paid job, but it is something that we have to continue to make sure that we know what tasks we have to do, when we have to do it, and you know, whether we can resource it without burning each other out.
Okay, I'm concerned about time, and I think that there may be a number of questions for what you've seen. If you just you've cast your mind back to the 2 films as well. They're really interesting short films. So any questions on what you think the value of those films are, what maybe they brought up, what Emanuela said in relation to her experience, and similarly with Murad, and the Racial Justice Network work that Said discussed. Rabia's really interesting account of growing up in Oldham and her various bits of transition that she's gone through at different times. And then obviously what we've just heard just now related to climate emergency in Manchester. So has anyone got any comments or questions? Washington, I was going to ask you as a kind of a respondent anyway, but you put your hand up, so yeah.
I want to respond to a few things there, because one of the things that shot at me immediately was white leg movement. And it shot at me because I was at Manchester University some years ago, and there was a student from Rochdale was doing a PhD. He was trying to prove that one of the issues with climate change and climate justice is that they're saying that Black and Asian minority people do not understand the science, has no interest in it. And he said he don't think so. It was a whitewash, because social media, as we know it then, was just showing European people promoting and everything. And unfortunately, he did not complete the PhD because one center he left 1,000 questionnaire, and within weeks, less than a month, he was called to come and collect the respondents. And I think he got over 780 odd respondents, people who were interested in what he was doing. And during the process of putting in the data in the computer to start do his writing up, he developed repetitive strain, and he had to abandon his study. And he was very, very sad about it, because the whole idea, he wanted to generate a book to show that local people have interest, understand the science, and it's because we don't have access to mainstream media why you're not seeing us out there. So today, Voice for Action is showing and convincing me that we have always had an interest in climate change and climate justice. Unfortunately, that PhD work didn't complete, and I am still trying to find. I've been searching for this student for the last 10 or so years, and I can't find him, but hopefully if he's alive, I will find him. I'm raising this because you also mentioned something about carbon footprint, and there is also another issue which they are saying that we don't understand. It's a fallacy. It is not true. I have been to North Korea to present on environmental issues. North Korea, yes, about climate justice and environmental issue. And who were the major presenters at the time and who were activists were people from Africa. So it's again because we are not being given that highlight in the media, and therefore I want to say these two small projects for social media, they are in the right direction, because that is where young people are, elderly people are, that is where everyone is now. So having these small bits and pieces that people can access them through Facebook, etc., will make a difference. And I hope that those of us who are in the audience and uses these channels as means of communication, we can use activities like these today to get the message out. Don't think I'm boring. I have had the opportunity to read the entire report from the 1992 Rio Conference, a replica of what is going to be happening in Glasgow in the next few weeks. And I'm just waiting to see how much of what is going to be repeated, because one of the things that indigenous people, a lot of the actions that they have called through from Rio, only a small percentage of it has been touched. So my message to all of us here is that as local people, as Emmanuel has said, we are at a stage where we can do something. The only thing I throw away in my house is things. My family see me as some hoarder. I recycle, I give things away. I'm appalled at my neighbor. Everything goes onto the truck and you have so many recycle places around, charity shops. We can do those things. It makes a difference. It makes a difference. So we can do those small things. And for those of us who lives in social media, the little things that we do to save energy, to save on the rubbish, we can post those on social media. So those are my concerns, which I think as local people, the more of us come out, it will energize the movement and eventually turn out into a global movement. I just want to say something about Manchester. There is a group known as ARIC. It's an academic group. I don't know if it's still being funded. It comes out of Manchester Metropolitan University. They were monitoring the air quality in Manchester. And all the work, the scientific work that they have done, trying to get the council to do things around pollution, has fallen on deaf ears.
Thank you for that, Washi. Again.
Yeah, I really enjoyed hearing everyone's perspectives. I just wanted to touch on a couple of points. I think completely agree with you about power and dynamics, and I think migrant communities and people who have migrated to the UK and people like Emmanuel who've come from, and Murad have come from countries that have seen the impacts of climate change. I think there's lots of people who are doing things on a grassroots level, and I think that's why SIZE, organisations like the Racial Justice Network is so important, because it's about linking them to existing structures and organisations that link climate change in a holistic way, because I think the power, in terms of the power dynamics, the platforms don't exist to allow people like us to come out and speak openly, because when we do, then it's like, oh, you know, you're just talking about your perspective, it doesn't apply to the rest of us. And then one thing I wanted to touch on was around Emmanuel's point about the link to migration, and especially refugee communities. So, you know, on the back of the Syrian refugee crisis, there were voices that tried to talk about the impact of climate change, specifically to that community and to a lot of other communities, but I think we need to do more about talking about the impact of climate change and migrants, and you know, the reasons why people leave their homes. It's not out of choice. It's desperation and it's survival, and so yeah.
I think it's really interesting your points around Emanuela talking in climate migration, because migration and then now going into climate migration, because what we'll find here in the UK is maybe over the next few years, the next few decades, we'll become climate migrants. Then we will know the effect when we have to leave our homes because it's been destroyed due to floods, and people have already felt it here in certain areas anyway, but it'll just become more common, and we'll be put into the shoes where we have kept refugees and asylum seekers out for certain reasons, you know, due to the wars that we've created and left a long-lasting impact on. But climate, I think the term climate migrants is really interesting, because I know that over the next few years and the decades, we will essentially become climate migrants all over the world, and that'll be much more common. But yeah, thank you for your points. And is it Washington? Yeah, it's really interesting to hear your research, you wanting to research this PhD student and the work that they were doing. I know that, I think it was in Manmet Uni, Manchester Metropolitan Uni, sorry, they were looking into PhDs specifically within the arts and looking at local communities like Oldham, sustainability. I don't know if you know much about this, Adam. They're trying to, I think there's some scholarships that were going around that. I don't know if they're still doing this, so it might be something to look into. Yeah, I'm sure I know that there might be, it might be under, what's his name now? I'm not too sure, but I'm part of Manchester Climate Change Youth Board, which sits under Manchester Climate Change, the partnership and the agency, and they have, I think, a few mentions of that maybe there, somewhere within the remit, I'm not too sure, but there's also that there, yeah, but just adding on to your points.
Because I am interested in doing a PhD around graphene, you know, that new magic material that they have.
Secret sauce, yeah.
I am trying to work my way into that center to see who I can talk to. I've sent several emails trying to say, I want to look at the environmental impact of graphene, this wonder material, but no one is responding to me. And it's just probably, I just want to get a face because there's so much happening around this magic material, but I have not seen anything about what is going to happen to that material and its impact on the environment.
That's interesting. David, you had your hand up.
I just think sometimes I think it might be a lot of this not knowing about class. People, it's related to class as well. There are many people who are old who have got no access. People I work with, some people have no mobile phone, or they don't use social media. They've got communication difficulties. And one of they've gone there, but one of the somebody mentioned to me, people talked about justice for black people and justice for people in the countries. What about people with disabilities who can't necessarily, they'll be affected by climate change just the same. It also went through my mind when you were speaking that those of you with knowledge of other countries, you must know that there are people there, like there are here, who maybe have poor literacy, they're monolingual, that they don't have access to technology. I think that's common across the world. I don't think it doesn't not apply here. The people who are affected most by climate change and pollution here are the people who live in Oldham city centre, the town centre who don't have a car, they don't have passports, they're not travelling. So it isn't just a race issue, I don't think. I think it is to do with class as well.
Definitely. I really agree with that. Any other? Yeah.
My name's John, from Oldham, and I'm dressed like this because to me, the 60s, 70s and 80s was the mainstream awakening on the climate and things like that, campaign for nuclear disarmament and stuff like that. So that's why I was dressed like this today. But going back to Africa, the breadbasket of the world, and the stuff they dig out of it, and they're doing that now in other countries with lithium that's going to run our electric cars. And it's another compound like the cobalt and all that that's we mine out. It's toxic. The recycling companies can break it down, but it costs too much money, and they're getting away with not breaking it down. And all they're doing is throwing that lithium back into the land and poisoning the land. This is our government telling us to go for electric, saying it's cleaner and things like that. Then lithium, looking into lithium, it's deadly. It's almost, it's like something that's radioactive. So the globalist companies, they have a lot to do with this, and how they mine things, and the way they use people. Take for instance Unilever, big tea and coffee, they're linked to modern day slavery and stuff like that. So it's got to be the big companies and our government who we've got to awaken more, rather than so much the working class or the other people. It's the companies and our government who are holding all the key cards.
Nice shirt.
Yeah, I'd say on that, it's all about building capacity to do things, finding groups. Before I met my fellow core group members of Climate Emergency Management, I hadn't met them before. I barely met them in face-to-face, and we started to do things online via Zoom. But finding people that you can come together, small groups, 6, 7, 8, and building functional structures of that where you can actually discuss things and act on it as well, and continue to build that pressure is how we're going to move things forward and put pressure, whether that's on local government, whether that's on other specific issues, clean air, whether it's on disposal of lithium. These are how we're going to function and move things forward in small groups, probably not massive rallies all the time. We have to come together. Maybe when we have functioning groups of 6, 7, 8, then all come together and have these rallies and show strength and show power, and put these companies and governments to account. But I think until we can function on small unit levels, we won't necessarily ever be able to achieve the larger things.
I would say on that as well, one of the key sites we can all intervene in is within our own families, and that links a lot of what we're talking about here, in that we can talk to our grandparents, talk to our parents about how they have survived, because we are living in unique times. Obviously we've been through a pandemic, but there is the bigger question. People could say the pandemic is a symptom of climate change, and I think that is obviously true because of the zoological nature. We've had other diseases which have been caused by humans impeding on animal habitats, and there's going to be more. So I think talking to our parents, talking to those of us who, we all have different backgrounds, we all have people who've got histories of living in harmony with the land, and I think we can learn from how some of the videos showed how we recycled, we used the land in better ways, but we can also get together and we can also look at the harm, the damage that has been done on all of us from all different aspects, and I think that's something that another hat I wear is working on through the reparations movement, which looks at how we can really have climate justice. I think one of the things that you mentioned, Neerad, was around it's a crime, and I think we need to really name what's happening. So definitely aiming at the corporations and calling what's happening ecocide. That there's an actual term which describes what is happening to the planet, and so there are definite criminals, definite people who are responsible for the destruction, and it's about fighting against those. It's about getting together, looking at what the harm is, looking at what the damage is in our own families, and really getting a sense of where we've been, where we're going, and thank you for picking up the idea of white-led activism, which I said in a way that it's perceived as such, but I totally agree with you in thinking that you can go back and link history in that. Because of colonialism destroyed a lot of the ways we lived in harmony with the earth, and whether they call themselves or not, they wouldn't have done. The people who are resisting that, the first people who were enslaved and transported from lands to work in plantations and everything else, the people who resisted that, they are climate warriors, and that is these are some of the movements we can learn from, the people who resisted the takeovers of land in every part of the globe, who resisted the fences and the borders, and who fight for their seeds, who fight for their part of the globe. And these are the things we need to link up from our family centres into the community, and then definitely, as we're doing here, interconnected, intercultural, intergenerational, and international.
Of the local activism, where people's involved in it. Out of today's session, could we draft something from the organizers, send through to you to say here is a collective voice out of today's session that can help to strengthen the work you're trying to get the city council to do?
Yeah, I think, well, we can see, I think so. I think we're trying, I guess this is Oldham. It'd be great to see a collective voice come together for Oldham to do a similar thing that we're trying to do in Manchester, because they're separate councils. But I think that would be good. Challenge your leaders, your elected leaders, to do more. Challenge them. What are they doing? Are they doing enough? Because I think that's so much part of it, and I think it's linking in these things. You know, Oldham's been massively and disproportionately affected by COVID. What are they going to do to make that recovery a just recovery, and one that doesn't impact the long-term future of our species?
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but Climate Emerging Manchester have done things like freedom of information requests, which often you've not had replies to, but because in theory then you can ask your council whether they are actually doing this, or even just an audit of what they're doing.
Yeah, we've created guides to try to help people, and again, this is all about capacity building. We want to build more capacity within more local groups and more communities to do similar things, not exactly the same, because every community is different. Like, admittedly, we are 6 people who are white and middle class and have privilege in our sort of backgrounds, but at the same point, we're quite happy to work with anyone else of any other community if we can have this dialogue and say, like, we've created these resources, they may work for you, they may work for different organisations looking at different things, to be able to understand the structures of power and how we can challenge it.
I think we're gonna. I don't know if there's any more questions.
She had a question.
We've got somebody here. I don't know if you mind saying, but Hannah is from University of Central London. She's a researcher. She's a published author in terms of stuff to do with climate, and she's also doing a podcast, which is, I don't know whether it's entirely to do with this event or whether this event is a part of a podcast. Which is nice for us to again have a voice from this, Voices for Action, but have the voices that are here become part of a podcast that you're going to release at some points, in the near future. I don't know whether you've got any responses you'd like to share about the day, really.
Yeah, I mean, I did want to make a kind of comment or question which was related to the discussion that we've just been having, which was about, maybe prompted a bit by what Alex was saying about the kind of struggles with the council, and then juxtaposing with these really interesting examples of like how people are really working the process way. When I was doing research, I did some research in and around Manchester City Council, and one of the things that councillors would have said was like, well, maybe it was a bit rhetorical, but they'd say, oh, well, we would like to do more on climate change, but we can't because people aren't that interested. And people are interested in issues that are not to do with climate change. And when I hear the discussion today, I think what was being meant by climate change by those councillors and what people are talking about today was maybe really different. So they were thinking of climate change maybe much more in that carbon footprinting way, the sense that people were resistant to the requests for them to change their behaviours or reduce their carbon footprints. But this seems to be a much more powerful conversation that's happening here, which is about a kind of sensibility to injustice and to inequality and to all kind of much more powerful discourse. And I wonder how that can be made visible to councillors, to say it's not that people don't care about climate change. People really, really are caring about climate change. It's just they're not being given the space to voice the version of caring about climate change that can register. And I think that might be the case at a national level as well. I know there's a researcher called Rebecca Willis who did a whole series of interviews with politicians, and they said the same. They said, well, our hands are tied because people aren't interested in climate change. And I really take the point that you were making, that I think there's that's a rhetorical argument. I'm not sure it's true, but it's a powerful one. There's silence in these.
I think there might be another comment at the back.
Just going off that.
Yeah.
I'm getting into local councilling soon, and the thing is, a typical example is a Labour councillor in Oldham sided with the resident to protect his green space, and then the council deselected him from running the next time. If we have dominated control by certain groups in the council, we're never going to be heard and they're never going to listen to us. So we have to break the councils up. So I'm getting into counselling. There's hundreds of extra political parties being made, local parties. that are putting pressures, breaking up councils, so that we get a better voice. Because throughout the Labour Party, if they want to build houses in Manchester, nothing's going to stop them building houses. A couple of people are just saying, oh, listen, you have to stop. It's not going to stop the entire Labour Party building houses. And the 13,000 in Oldham and the Manchester Spatial Framework, something like 30,000 houses. So unless we break our councils up, rather than being dominated by one particular group, we'll get set, and that's what I think.
Thanks a lot. Okay, we're kind of a bit over time, but I didn't want to cut this short because we started a bit late. We do need to finish now because we have to vacate the library by 5 o'clock, and there's all kinds of equipment to pick up, and also everyone's got things that you've all got to go back to. But thank you ever so much for you all for coming. Thank you so much to the panel. Thank you for Sarah, the wonderful song and the short recital you did. Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you for Emanuela for your song and your short recital. Both of them are really wonderful. Really brought me to tears, actually, to be honest, for both of them. And then there was the earlier panel that also the community members. I think most of the community members have gone. The ones that are involved in producing the media earlier on. Sorry, Daniel's still here. Oh yes, Daniel, you're still here. Fantastic. And I don't know if you remember the bits that were yours in there, but really, really interesting things that you all came out with. But anyway, thank you so much, and I'm hoping this goes somewhere. I'll be picking up from here with David, as well as with the groups, Fatima Women's Association, and trying to work on where we go from here, really. But anyway, thanks so much. Let's have a quick hand for yourselves as well as the panel. And for Sarah and Emanuela. Yeah. And before you go, if you haven't already, please fill in an evaluation form, because they really do help us do projects like this, more projects like this, because funders love evaluations, basically. They are also useful for us to get, to be able to do events like this better next time as well. So we do, all of us read all of them. So please fill them in. Thanks. Have a good rest of your weekend.